Hey guys, Hong-Zhi here, hosting the first ever Mario Superstar Baseball debate tournament. Over on the Mario Baseball Club Discord, 8 people signed up to participate in a tournament debating the viability of the different Mario Superstar Baseball characters. The winner doesn't really get anything, it's just for bragging rights, but we hope that this will be a very fun event and hope that you guys can learn something by witnessing this. Pitchers are never the highest priority character that you take when building your team, but they're absolutely necessary for building one. Two of the highest regarded pitchers in Mario Superstar Baseball are Waluigi and Dixie Kong. But which of the two is truly better? Well, let's find out. For this debate, we're doing Waluigi, represented by KJFries, and
Wow.
versus Dixie Kong, represented by Peacock Slayer. As with the other debates, each party will have 3 arguments that they will make, followed by a 1 to 2 minute conclusion. They are allowed to take up to 5 minutes to make their points, but if they go over that, I'm going to cut them off and say, shut the fuck up, no one cares. Uh, I Before this began, I flipped a coin. Peacock Slayer will be going first. He will have up to 5 minutes to make a case on why he thinks Dixie Kong is a better player than Waluigi. Once he stops, I'll try to ease into KJ. So, Peacock, you have 5 minutes starting now.
All right, thanks, Hong-Zhi. So when it comes to Dixie versus Waluigi, um, my line of thinking is Waluigi is a top 4 or 5 pitcher who can only pitch. His Waluigi's off the mound, his throwing arm is worse than Dixie Kong's. His chem links in the field are worse or don't matter as much. He has the worst laser because of his um, uselessness in the field. And in my opinion, his bat is worse than Dixie's. So I'm going to unpack these one by one here. First, there's no arguing that Waluigi is obviously a good pitcher, but I think at best you could say at best he is tied with Dixie Kong when it comes to this. His from the stats that we found in the game, his curveball speed is a little less while having an identical curve stat. So that means he'll have more time to move the ball as it gets to the batter, but it also makes it a little easier to read because the ball is not moving as fast. While I think Dixie Kong having a slightly faster curveball makes her a better pitcher in my mind because she still has the same amount of movement, but the ball is a little faster, so it gives you a little less time to see it. Waluigi does have a faster fastball, but that's really, in my opinion, not all that important. So I would concede that they're close pitchers, maybe even preference. But once you get outside of pitching is where Dixie Kong really shines, in my opinion. So we'll start with her chem links. Dixie Kong has chemistry. This might be a little unfair to Fries, but we now know the chemistry like values that every character has. And I've published this, so I feel like it's somewhat fair. But Dixie has 90 chem with DK, 33 with Bowser, 21 with Wario, and 55 with Mario. And DK is obviously a captain who always gets picked. So having 90 chemistry with him, second only to Diddy Kong, is huge. That'll get you a good shot at getting 5 or at the very least 4 stars if you have Dixie on a DK team. Waluigi's story is a little bit different. Pretty much all of his values, well, I'll just read them out. He has 34 with DK, which is really bad. He has 60 with Bowser, which is decent. That's 4 stars. He has 99 with Wario and 20 with Mario. Wario is obviously super high, but he's also a lesser picked captain. And between Bowser and DK, I mean, 4 stars, I don't know. He has 4 stars with Bowser and 3 with DK, and Dixie has 3 with Bowser and 5 with DK. So I think Dixie wins in that comparison. If Mario enters the picture, she gets better chemistry with Mario. I think she gets better chemistry with Birdo, but I don't have those numbers in front of me. So uh, Waluigi's chemistry links also don't matter as much because he can't play anywhere in the field. His throwing arm is 40 power, while Dixie's throwing arm is 70, which means that really limits where Waluigi can play. He only gets really good chemistry with Boo and Wario, I believe. And I don't think he's ever going to be in a spot where he's throwing to Wario because Wario doesn't play first or third. He might play second, but I mean that's such a small window. Um, like I said, his throwing arm is worse. His laser again doesn't really matter as much as like Pianta's or DK's or Bowser's because you really do not want him in the field. He has super jump, which again you really don't want him in the field. Dixie has clamber, but I mean that's equally useless. I concede that, but her throwing arm at least makes her useful in the field, and she's faster. So she's useful in the outfield, getting balls into the infield. I also wanted to touch on, yeah, at bats, I think Dixie's trajectory is a little bit better, whereas Wario's, you basically have to hit it right up the middle with him. I know if Hong-Zhi could, he would say that single bats don't matter, but I think just the size of Dixie's bat, it kind of leads you to get better hits with her. I don't know. This is a
All right.
very like
All right.
subjective
I, I,
opinion.
I know I'm not supposed to talk here, but you're actually over your limit, so I'm going to
Okay, all
have to
right,
cut you
thanks.
off. KJ, you have 5 minutes. Begin.
All right. Definitely brought up some interesting points. Some things that I definitely won't argue on is the chemistry tree as far as Waluigi because he does have way worse chemistry as far as only being chem linked with positively with Wario and Magic Koopa, which is not bad if you're not pitching with Waluigi because you already have if you take maybe some other pitcher earlier in the draft like you prefer to pitch with someone like Daisy or Boo, you could I haven't tested this personally, but I'm theorizing that you could potentially stick Waluigi at first base with a Wario shortstop, and then there's the chem link there. There's also his super jump, which comes into play, which we've seen um, come up huge. And he also has a really big hitbox in the field, which I think is definitely a plus, especially at a quarter infield spot. So you could stick. I don't know how likely he would be at first base, but I feel like that's definitely at least an option. And with his longer dive, you could maybe get some foul balls. But also having the laser at first base would be probably better for him than the other bases because it's a shorter throw. And then you could stick like maybe Magic Koopa at third, and then you're locking down all those balls that are going like that would go maybe over other characters' heads at the corners. Um, I personally can't. I'm going to go off my personal experience for Waluigi. I feel like I can hit pretty well with him. And when it comes down to these characters that are put into, if you look on the club's tier list, into the C tier, because there's obviously that A tier of characters, Bowser, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Birdo, Petey, all those guys. All of those guys, they're objectively like the best characters in the game, and you always want to pick those people first. But to me, in my experience, there's definitely characters that I'm better with. Some people don't really like Mario. Some people don't really like Luigi. I find to do well with them. So I feel like at this point, it comes down to personal preference. Like I don't hit well with Bowser, which I know is kind of silly to say, but because people think Bowser's the best hitter in the game, but like I'd rather hit with DK. So to me, yeah, there's definitely like elements that come into it, but I'm more comfortable, at least in my experience, hitting with Waluigi than I am with Dixie. I don't know what it is visually about Dixie's bat that I can't really get over, but I feel like Waluigi, I can slap some hits to the left side. As far as pitching, I think Waluigi is a good pitcher in the sense that he has the highest fast, like a really fast fastball, and then a slower changeup, and then slower uncharged pitches. And to me, that's what I like to use more than as opposed to someone who pitches like with Boo, where it's only uncharged pitches, and then they just kind of essentially throw knuckleballs or like big curveballs. To me, I like Waluigi because you can charge up the nice fastball and then throw a changeup, or then mix up the timing, and I feel like that's really effective. I don't know per se exactly Dixie's pitching speeds, but to me, Waluigi is really good at mixing speeds, and his curve is good enough where he's throwing a nice pitch. It ends up on the corners of the inside or the outside of the plate. Um, but I think Waluigi is better in that sense where I'd rather be pitching with him, and I'm more comfortable pitching with him. And then I'm also more used to swinging with Waluigi's bat. I'm more effective than with Dixie Kong. So maybe, I don't know if this is too much of an anecdotal argument, but I feel like Waluigi, for me at least personally, is better in that sense. But and I think there could be some utility in the field up the middle. Maybe it's second base, not shortstop, but or first base or third, just because the super jump, saving those balls down the line are eventually the ones that turns into doubles that drive in runs. So I think there's definitely at least some utility for Waluigi in the field. Not like he can't play in the field at all per se, but there's definitely some room for exploration there. And I think that's all for me at this point.
All right. Peacock, you have 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes for your rebuttal. You may begin.
Okay. I first want to address your theory about Waluigi at first with Wario on short. You said he has super jump with a big hitbox. I think I probably agree with that. It's probably a decent spot for him with like Madge on third. Though I don't think Magikoopa gets chemistry with him when Madge is throwing. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong there. So that's, I mean, I don't know. That doesn't feel like it's anything special. First is a position that doesn't really matter all that much. So it's really useful for hiding your power hitters. Like I know a lot of people enjoy playing, putting Hammer Bro there or Bowser. I've seen people put PD there. It's really where you put like your high picks who can't play anywhere else. So if you put Waluigi there, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of a waste because then you have to move those players somewhere else. Then I also want to touch on the fact that Waluigi just doesn't have any kind of like star hits or like star pitches, which I know Dixie doesn't either. But I also want to say if you're drafting, if you're drafting a captain who just has no star hits at all, it seems kind of like a waste to me. Like it's better to have you're filling up a spot of a potential star hitter when you pick Waluigi for just a pitcher, which is, I think, worth noting because you're ideally never going to use a garlic ball in a game. But yeah, I think I want to close there on my 5 minutes.
All right. KJ, you have up to 5 minutes for your rebuttal. You may begin.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue you about the eggplant ball or whatever it's called. I think that's the name of it. But yeah, I don't think I would ever use that in a game unless I'm just trolling. But yeah, and I understand the power hitter argument because yeah, you definitely want to hide one of your bigger guys that's not as useful in the field. For a team like that has maybe first three picks are Bowser, Hammer, PD slash KB, then yeah, I mean that doesn't really make sense for Waluigi to play first. But I could envision a team comp where it's for I've seen people in the club have picked Boo first pick, and then maybe go DK after. So So if you have like maybe DK Yoshi is also common, DK Birdo, Yoshi Birdo, those are common picks. And on a team comp like that, I could see Waluigi sliding into first base where you don't have one of those kind of like beefier power hitters. But I mean, yeah, power hitters are definitely like a common. They're some of the more like meta characters. So I definitely understand what you're saying, but I think that there is kind of a niche to that. But yeah, I mean, as seeing as that Boo is probably the best pitcher in the game, I normally default to Waluigi. I'm the most comfortable with him at least, and like I was saying earlier about the changing speeds, I feel like it gets kind of tedious. Boo's curve is so good and like unparalleled that for me, when I'm pitching with someone who's not Boo, I don't want to be only throwing uncharged curveballs the whole game because then I feel like someone could pick up on that tendency. So that's why I'm in favor of the Waluigi changing speeds approach when I'm pitching. Yeah, I don't know if I have much more than that, but I do it. Yeah, like the single bats don't matter. I agree, Hong-Zhi, because there's people like that really hate Waluigi for hitting, and I know that, like there's some guy in the club that likes Bowser Jr. So to me, and the unstarred thing, I think there's validity to that. But at the end of the day, it's like you have 9 hitters in your lineup, and you only have 5 stars max at a time. So not every hitter can always be using a star. So I get what you're saying as far as the having not a star hitter in Waluigi, but you can't have too many reliant on star hits. Otherwise, then if you're out of stars, then you're basically out of luck. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
All right. Peacock Slayer, this is your last rebuttal. You may begin.
So I don't really have too many other arguments to make either. I think we've kind of put it all on the table. I guess I just want to say, if Boo, my thinking is after listening to both of these arguments, my thinking is if Boo goes early on, which he almost always does, go pretty high in the draft, then the other player can pick a pitcher in the 9th pick is usually, or later on in the draft, we'll say. And the only time I personally could see me picking Waluigi 9th is on a Wario team. I think pretty much on any other team, I would go Dixie because at least he offers Wario's team like some chemistry and some stars. But if he does get tired, like you don't want a player who I think is a liability in the field, whereas Dixie can really hold her own at a couple positions. So I just think he's kind of outclassed by Dixie in that sense, where you really wouldn't want to pick him on too many teams unless you need his chemistry. And in that case, I don't know, you might want to rethink your team in general. So I think that's really the last argument I have to make. I think that really summarizes what I'm trying to say as well.
All right. KJFries, you have another 5 minutes.
Yeah, I agree that I feel like Waluigi is probably best suited for a Warrior team, but I feel like Wario is not someone that I feel like Wario either I don't know the exact stats, but I feel like Wario is a good enough player to warrant being picked like every game. So seeing him like pairing, that's not like a bad partner per se to have. Like obviously it's not like where Dry Bones gets picked because he's a good link, or like Green Paratroop is picked because of their connections with Bowser. But yeah, I think Wario's pretty strong. Definitely one of the better kind of like B tier, I guess, if you want to say like players up the middle. If you're not getting someone like DK or Yoshi or Birdo.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I meant specifically like if Wario's your captain is the only time I'd pick him. Not even if Wario's on your team, just if he's your captain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I mean, I feel like both of these, I guess Waluigi's more of a specific pick in that sense, because I do think that there's definitely like in the field there's way more utility with Dixie, because she could play in the outfield where, I mean, Waluigi, I guess, but not really. You wouldn't really want him out there, but just because of the weak arm. But yeah, I mean, I like pitching with Waluigi, so I guess, yeah, but he doesn't need to be picked very high. If someone else already has Boo, there's not really gonna like hunt for Waluigi until like maybe they're rounding out the rest of their team. So yeah, I think he's a good pitcher if you can get him later on. I mean, you don't have to spend like a higher pick, but I do understand what you're saying about the utility. If you want to move Dixie somewhere else later on, then you can. But yeah, I guess that's it for me.
All right, Peacock, just here's your conclusion. Just sum up your thoughts in a couple minutes. Go ahead.
Sure, yeah. So I guess overall, I just want to kind of reiterate what we've been saying. I do think Dixie brings a lot more to a team. She's more of a generalist who also, in my opinion, pitches better than Waluigi. Or even if you want to say they pitch the same, she offers a lot more to a team. And again, I just want to say that her throwing arm is much better. Her chemistry tree is much better. Yeah, I think that does it for me.
All right, and KJ?
I think we agree on a lot of points, KJ.
Yeah. I don't think it's much of a. Yeah, I don't think there's much contention. I guess my thing is that I guess if I'm rolling into my conclusion now, it's that I like Waluigi a lot as a pitcher, and I feel like his mix of speeds is really good as far as the fast fastball and the slow changeup slash uncharged curveball. I enjoy using that, which I know some people only do uncharged or like only do charged, but to me, I think the mix of speeds is good. I prefer his bat to Dixie. I feel like he has a really long bat in my eyes. I know that there's like specific data about certain people's bats and their hitboxes and whatnot, but to me, I feel like I'm way more effective hitting with Waluigi. So in my eyes, I see him as a better hitter and a better pitcher, and definitely not a better fielder. I'll totally agree with that. I do feel like there could be some use to him in the field potentially, but it's definitely not like a huge aspect. And then obviously objectively slower runner. But to me, just being able to pitch more effectively and hit better is, in my opinion, what makes Waluigi better than Dixie Kong.
All right, this has been the debate between Waluigi and Dixie Kong. Thank you so much to my two wonderful guests for joining me. If this is the first debate you've watched, feel free to check out another one if you liked it. If you don't like it, sorry, I wish I could have made a better video, but I kind of sucked. So, yeah, if you want to subscribe, go ahead. If you want to join the Mario Baseball Club Discord, definitely do, because we got some great discussions going on there. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.